Do you maybe have some advice also for people who might be listening that can really find it difficult to express their anger or to really get in touch with more of that our nature in that way?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to know, of course, is that all emotions are visitors, as we know, and they're not our identity. So we want to be really mindful not to say, like, I'm an angry person or whatever it is, or even to judge people as that, because that when we're judging them, we're really just seeing our own fear reflected back to us that we're afraid to be angry, right? We're not in touch with that aspect of ourselves. So the first thing to know is that it's not our identity, it's just an experience that presents itself. And emotions are so important, and they are really signposts and guideposts for the process that we're going through in our human healing journey to really kind of reconnect with our own divine spirit. So anger itself is very powerful because what's underneath anger usually is deep and profound sadness and grief.
Mm.
And it kind of works in layers like a sandwich. We have the anger, and then underneath we have the sadness. And the anger is important because it shows us a lot about the times where maybe we didn't get to speak up when we had wanted to, or we weren't able to create boundaries or protect ourselves, and we would have wanted to, or we start to understand something about the world and how we interpret it and it makes us angry. And anger on its own isn't really helpful if we just sit in it, right?
Mm.
So one of the feminine arts that I teach is emotional alchemy. And the alchemical process, of course, is to take whatever that base material is. And so in this case, it's the emotion of anger, right? And to then add another quality to it to then transmute it into something else. So in the case of anger, what I usually say is we add love, add a dose of love with the anger. So say we're upset about a time that we couldn't speak up for ourselves. The way to get to the love there is to know that we're not alone in that experience. That's something that almost everyone on the planet has been through, especially as a child or whatever has happened to us. We bring in the dose of love, which is love for ourselves at that point in time, like really compassionately loving that aspect of ourselves. And also a lot of love for the fact that there are so many people who are experiencing that same source of pain and anger. That's the love. And then what is born from that union and that marriage, that alchemical marriage, the transmutation that takes place is then we have passion. So actually my entire business, everything that I do in a way is fueled by what would be anger, but is actually passion, right? So my distaste for perhaps some of the ways of social conditioning that are very harmful or have been harmful for all of us, some of the many varied experiences that I've had as a person, in terms of trauma, and just knowing that is not an exception, right? It's almost the rule that everyone has had these experiences in some way. So for me to get to a place of passion with that story instead of just being angry allows me to then take action, right? So it's really powerful to be able to work with anger and to actually use it as a tool to then create. The creative expression is one of the most important aspects that we have in order to really powerfully move some of the emotions that we hold. And it can really be anything, sadness, anger, whatever it is, to then use that to be expressed creatively and to give birth to something allows us actually then to come back into the present and to it's sort of like a ritual or a ceremony that we hold, and then that aspect of us has been expressed, right, and it's taken another form, and then we can kind of move forward. So that is one way to work with anger and to really start to honor it, because it's a very very important message. And especially when it's coming up repeatedly or it's being triggered very often, it's just saying, I'm here, pay attention to me. These strong emotions are kind of like little kids in their own way. And they're like, I'm right here, like I'm knocking on your door and you're not looking at me, right? So one of the worst things we can do is to suppress or ignore that experience. On the opposite end of the spectrum, I teach breath work, which is an
Mm-hmm.
emotional alchemy embodied practice where we take kind of what is stored in the sacral area, move it through the heart, and then we're able to breathe it out. Because working on a somatic level and with the body as well, especially with anger, is really, really important. So any kind of movement We can do breath work is a great practice as well, and hopefully people can find it, around them or work with someone online or reach
Mhm.
out to me if they need more information. But then the other piece of that, of course, is moving the body. When anger is stuck in the body, really when anything is stuck in the body, but especially anger because it's such a hot emotion, it can cause a lot of disturbance in the energetic field if we repress it for too long. And it will eventually turn into disease, right? We know this to
Mhm.
be true. So moving the body is really important, and it doesn't have to be aggressive movement, although that might feel really good if you're angry, like kickboxing or going for a run or like going for, something that really feels like you're physically moving a lot of strength, right? So like a big hike, something like this. And also, if you can be outside, all the better because you can allow that energy then to be released back into the earth with permission from her, of course. And the last piece is for a lot of people, and what was very true for me was a lot of the anger that I felt was actually a need to vocalize. So, as a woman, I had never had a safe space to scream in my life, like as an adult, and probably even as a kid. I'm sure that expression was shut down for me, and that on an animal level is one of the ways that we just discharge that energy, right? Just like shaking is another way to discharge those old energies. So I have a video called Six Ways to Scream, where I kind of teach people how to hold ceremony for their anger in a really safe way. Because another thing we want to know about our emotions, and especially the stronger ones, is that we never want to put them on other people, which we end up doing if we don't have an emotional hygiene practice, an emotional kind of support system for ourselves. And that can really look like anything. It's our own rituals, our own ceremonies, and even also, of course, like working with someone else, whether it's a therapist or a coach or a healer or whomever, to really address these things. But yeah, the vocalization piece was really helpful. And I think there's an aspect, especially for all of us, of the collective masculine and the collective feminine, each having their own forms of rage, that
Mhm.
when it is expressed primally through a scream at some point or through profound movement, that is really just like a container that we create to really safely move that stuff and not put it on other people. And also, we're not doing it to harm ourselves by any means whatsoever. It's really through love. It's about self love and loving the part of us that didn't get to make that noise or make that movement or whatever it was. And that's very profound. So, those are some of the ways that I suggest working with anger, but it really applies to everything, to just really, it's about having a relationship with yourself of complete acceptance and knowing that whatever you are feeling, it's up to you to really ask, how does this want to be moved? Does it need to be addressed? Because again, sometimes our emotions are visitors, and so we don't always need to get attached to them and go deep into them. Sometimes it's better to just let them move and kind of move on. But that's about us really, again, using our intuition, being in relationship with ourselves, and honoring what we need moment by moment.